Classic, and today we're going to talk about something that I've had a lot of requests for, which is how to play a walking bass line. Now, this lesson is going to be split into two different videos because we need to learn some technical information before we can really get into a walking bass line. So the first video is going to be about how to play arpeggios, which we're going to need for our walking bass line. So if you haven't seen any of my other videos, go to my YouTube page, and they're all numbered, and you'll see that we start with some pretty basic stuff, the C major scale. And today we're going to build on the C major scale, and we're going to talk about the arpeggios that are contained, or some of the arpeggios that are contained in the C major scale. And then in the next lesson, we're going to apply those arpeggios and that scale to creating a walking bass line. So this part of the lesson is about arpeggios. Okay. So in that first lesson, we learned about the C major scale. Now we're going to talk about how to play a couple of the arpeggios that exist in the key of C. So what's an arpeggio? I know it sounds like a really fancy, complicated musical term, but it's really not. It's really pretty simple. An arpeggio is simply the notes in a chord played one at a time. So if I play 2 or 3 or 4 notes together simultaneously, we call that a chord. But if I play those same notes one at a time, we call that an arpeggio. They're pretty much the same thing. This is a chord. This is an arpeggio. Okay? So guitar players, keyboard players, they tend to play chords. Bass players don't play chords as much. Bass is kind of muddy, so it gets a little, it's just not a real good instrument for playing chords. So while the guitar player and keyboard player playing chords, we're playing walking bass lines. We're playing arpeggios. And you can hear already that the guitar player is playing that chord. If I play an arpeggio, it pretty much sounds like a walking bass line. So keep that in mind. The basis of walking bass lines, which is where we're going, is arpeggios. So here's the first arpeggio we're going to do. We're going to learn the C major 7 arpeggio, and then we're going to learn the D minor 7 arpeggio and the G dominant 7 arpeggio. We're going to learn the C major arpeggio because it's the first arpeggio in the key of C. If we start from the first note in the key of C, which is C, and then take every other note in the key of C, C, E, G, and B, we get a C major 7 arpeggio. Now, before I move on, I just want to let you know that I'm not going to get into a lot of the detail about the theory of, what a major 7 is, what a minor 7 is, what a dominant 7 is. We can worry about all that later, and we will get back to that and talk about those things in detail. But for right now, let's just get these arpeggios under our fingers, so we can apply them to a walking bass line, and then we'll kind of sort out the details later. So we're going to find the lowest note on our bass that is in that C major 7 arpeggio. Remember, the notes in the C major 7 arpeggio are C, E, G, and B. And I have a 5-string bass here. My 4-string basses aren't here, so in the future I'll try to use 4 strings. Just ignore this low string. This is a low B, just pretend it doesn't exist. So the lowest note in this position on our bass that's in that arpeggio is E. So we play E, and put our pinky on G, second finger on B, pinky on C, second finger on E, open G. We can also grab this B if we want to, and go back down, open G, second finger on C, second finger on E, pinky on C, second finger on B, pinky on G, open E. And then I'll just kind of end on C to give it a nice rounded out sound. So it sounds like we're home. Now on fingering, I mentioned this in a previous lesson, but I'll say it again. Often electric bass players, people who play primarily electric bass, will use fingers 1, 2, and 3 to cover the first 3 frets, leaving this finger available for fret 4. But a lot of people who play upright end up using the upright positioning. Upright's so much wider that you can only use 1, 2, 4. You leave this finger out entirely to cover 3 frets. 1, 2, and 4. So I'm using the upright fingering. You can use the 1, 2, 4 upright fingering if you want, or you can use the 1, 2, 3 electric bass fingering. Either one is fine. I'll leave it up to you. But I had to do one of the two, so I picked what is most common for me. All right, so the next position, we start on the low G on our second finger, G, first finger on B, second finger on C, first finger on E, pinky on G, third finger on B, pinky on C, going back down, B, C, E, C, B, G, and kind of round it out, and on C. The next position starts with our pinky on C natural, then our third finger on E natural. Now we have to shift back here. We have to shift the second finger back here to grab this G. And then we put our first finger on B natural, our second finger on C, first finger on B natural, second finger on G. Now we have to shift back up to where we were before, so we take this third finger, shift it from here to this E natural here, and then C with our pinky, play that B again, C. Next position starts on the 8th fret with our second finger on C, C, first finger on E, pinky on G, third finger on B, pinky on C, third finger on E, going back down, C, B, G, E, C, B, C. Next position starts with our pinky on the 12th fret on E. Then our second finger on G, first finger on B, second finger on C, first finger on E, pinky on G, going back down, E, C, B, G, E. Last position, our first finger on the 12th fret on E, third finger on, pinky on G, third finger on B, pinky on C, third finger on E, first finger on G. And if you want, you can grab this high B up here. When we get into these upper positions, the frets are so close together that we can make stretches that, that we couldn't do in lower positions. So if you want to grab this B, be my guest. First finger on G, third finger on E, C, B, G, E, and just close it up with a nice C natural. Okay, moving right along here, the D minor 7 arpeggio. The notes in the D minor 7 arpeggio are D, F, A, and C natural. Okay, so let's start in the lowest position of our bass. The lowest note in this position, in this arpeggio, even though the first note in the arpeggio is D, the lowest note in this position is F, because the notes in that chord are D, F, A, and C. So remember, we're learning, and if you need to review this, I would go back to my lesson that I mentioned before on the C major scale and how we want to learn every note in a particular position. So the lowest note in this arpeggio is F. First finger on F, open A, third finger on C, open D, third finger on F, second finger on A, going back down, F, D, C, A, F. And we can kind of round it off and end it on D just to make ourselves feel good. The next position, the lowest note in that position is A, pinky on A, second finger on C, pinky on D, second finger on F, first finger on A, pinky on C, going back down, A, F, D, C, A. Next position, the lowest note in that position on a 4-string bass, again, ignore this string, is A, first finger on A, pinky on C, first finger on D, pinky on F, third finger on A, first finger on C, third finger on D, going back down, C, A, F, D, C, A. And then just kind of go up, end on D, give ourselves a sense of resolution. Next position, pinky on D, second finger on F, first finger on A, pinky on C, first finger on D, pinky on F, going back down, D, C, A, F, D, C, D. Next position, first finger on D, D, pinky on F, third finger on A, first finger on C, third finger on D, first finger on F, going back down, D, C, A, F, D. Last position, which is the same as this first one, same notes, 12 frets up. You might notice that they're basically the same pattern. Second finger on F, first finger on A, except of course in this case that would be 12 frets down, that would be an open note. Here you have to stop it with your finger. So second finger on F, first finger on A, pinky on C, first finger on D, pinky on F, third finger on A, going back down, F, D, C, A, F. Okay, that's the D minor 7 arpeggio. The notes in that chord or arpeggio are D, F, A, and C, and all of those notes are in the key of C major. Okay, the last arpeggio that we're going to learn from the key of C is the G dominant 7 arpeggio. The notes in that chord are G, B, D, and F. And before I show you those notes, before I show you those fingerings, you probably realize at this point that we've learned a major 7 arpeggio, a minor 7 arpeggio, and a dominant 7 arpeggio. I don't want you to worry too much about what the difference between those chords are like. What's dominant 7 and what's major 7 and what's minor 7? I'm not worried about that. We will get to that. But right now, I just want you to get the notes under your fingers. And as you do them, you'll be able to see and hear and feel the differences between those chords for yourself. And we will do a lesson where we talk specifically about the theory behind that. But just kind of don't worry about it right now. Just get this stuff under your fingers, learn the names, and then we'll get into the theory and the details later. So a G dominant 7 arpeggio, the notes in G dominant 7 arpeggio are G, B, D, and F. Okay, so the first position, actually it's called half position, which we can either finger by spreading out 3 fingers over 3 frets, or people who have played upright bass sometimes get rid of this digit here and use 1, 2, pinky. I do a little of both, and you can do whatever's the most comfortable for you. I am going to use the upright fingering for this demonstration. So the lowest note in that position that's in that arpeggio is F. So pinky on G, second finger on B, open D, pinky on F, open G. Going back down, F, D, B, G, F, and then just kind of end it on G to round it out. Next position, we start on G. G natural, second finger on G, first finger on B, pinky on D, second finger on F, pinky on G, third finger on B, going back down, G, B, G, F, D, B, G. Next position, this one's going to require a shift, so you kind of pay close attention to how I finger this. We're going to start on B with our third finger, B, first finger on D, pinky on F. Now this second finger is going to have to move over here to get that G. So let me do that whole thing again so you see how that happens. Third finger on B, first finger on D, pinky on F, then we shift, second finger on G, first finger on B, pinky on D. Going back down, G, now we shift up to get that pinky on F, D, B. Next position, first finger on B, pinky on D, second finger on F, pinky on G, third finger on B, first finger on D, pinky on F. Going back down, D, B, F, G, F, D, B. Next position starts with our first finger on D, D, pinky on F. Now we have to do a similar shift. I have to shift my second finger over here to G. First finger on B, pinky on D, second finger on F, pinky on G. Going back down, F, D, B, G, shift, F, D. So you see that little shift in here. Shift. Shift. Okay. So now we've learned 3 arpeggios on our bass. We've learned the C major 7 arpeggio, the D minor 7 arpeggio, and the G dominant 7 arpeggio. All of those notes in all of those chords are all in the key of C. So just to review, the notes in the key of C are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. The notes in the C major 7 arpeggio are C, E, G, and B. All of those notes are in the key of C. Second arpeggio we learned is a D minor 7 arpeggio. D, F, A, and C. All of those notes are in the key of C. The next arpeggio that we learned is the G dominant 7 arpeggio. G, B, D, and F. All of those notes are in the key of C. Okay, so what we've done is we've taken the notes in the key of C and we've started to combine them into harmonies, chords, or arpeggios. We've taken the C major scale and we've created chords. C major 7, all notes from the key of C. D minor 7, all notes from the key of C. G dominant 7, all notes from the key of C. Okay? So the overriding concept is we're just taking the building blocks in the key of C and creating, different items to, musical like items to use with them that are all in the key of C, and they're all going to work with the key of C. So these are the building blocks that we're going to use to create a walking bass line. So practice those arpeggios for a little while, so you've just got them mastered all in every, well, not mastered, but so you've kind of got them under your fingers in every position. You could play a C major 7 arpeggio in every position. You can play a D minor 7 arpeggio in every position. You can play a G dominant 7 arpeggio in every position. And then we're going to take that and we're going to apply it to a walking bass line, which you're really going to dig. So until next time.